Alright, I am back with another video, and today it is my next lineup in the Deity build series. And as promised in my last video, we are doing Tymora today. Now, in contrast to my previous videos, I have actually done my research for this one. I have read up on the Forgotten Realms wiki as to what Tymora is, and I have learned from the comments that all of you have so graciously provided, so thank you for that. Some of your comments actually did influence the direction I went with this build in the end, as I initially went with something that was a bit more simple, but once I looked at some extra features and different ways of possibly building this, I decided to go a slightly different route. Now, this build is going to be slightly different than my usual builds in the aspect that this build is going to require a lot of kind of freedom of thought from the person who actually builds it into what they prioritize and what they want to get first, or if they even want to get certain things at all. But my main goal with this build is, because Tymora is literally Lady Luck, the god of good luck, I wanted to focus on a build that revolves around luck in general, and just getting as many different ways to use our luck to alter fate as possible. But not just that, I also wanted to kind of play on the angle that, unlike, say, you know, someone who just always wins, I feel like a chosen or a follower of Tymora, in this case a chosen, would probably get very bored and very disheveled if they were sort of like a gambling man who, like, always won. Because yes, you'd obviously win a lot of money, but there's no thrill in just winning all the time. If there's no risk, there's no real reward. So I actually decided to kind of focus on an aspect of this build which I think is interesting, in the fact that, yes, even though Tymora is not the goddess of bad luck, that is her twin sister, that she split off from when the original god, I think is pronounced Tish, died and split in two. Basically, I kind of wanted to play on the idea that, yes, there is the potential to get some bad luck with this build, as there is with anything in D&D, but you have a lot of tools to swing that luck in your favor, and when you do get that really, really good luck, it feels awesome. And obviously, to stay on theme for Tymora, we are playing a Lightfoot Halfling, which gets the racial feature Lucky, meaning when you roll a 1 on a die, you get to re-roll it and take the new result. But other than that, let's get into the build. So we're actually going to be starting off as a bard here, and I actually think there's a lot of good reasons to go with bard to start. Obviously, you're going to get bardic inspiration. Now, obviously, with bardic inspiration, you will be able to give your ally a bonus to their attack roll, ability check, or saving throw, manipulating luck in that little bit of a way, but we are going to get ways to improve this as well. So let's look into the cantrips. First off, we are playing with Vicious Mockery and Friends here. They are the two kind of bard cantrips, in my opinion. Vicious Mockery obviously being able to use your voice to deal psychic damage and impose disadvantage on the creature's next attack roll. This plays into that luck theme. I'm going to be playing a lot over the course of this build with like disadvantage and advantage, for sure, manipulating it in as many ways as possible. And obviously Friends, being able to get advantage on charisma checks is always good. As for our spells, we've got some interesting choices here that I've decided to go with. First off is Dissonant Whispers. Frighten a creature, they'll have disadvantage on ability checks and attack rolls, and they cannot move. This does a little bit of damage and has the chance to frighten someone, and of course that is manipulating luck again, being able to impose disadvantage. Next up is Heroism. I think if you have a long enough streak of good luck, you're going to see yourself as being somewhat invincible. So showing up and pretending to be the hero, thinking that you cannot be harmed when in reality there is still a great risk to you, is kind of funny. So basically what heroism does is it makes yourself immune to being frightened, kind of a fool's courage, and you gain 5 temporary hit points per turn. It does require concentration, but that's okay. I really like this spell, and the way I kind of envision this character is this is someone who is a gambler, who wins quite a lot thanks to their blessing of Tymora. Even if they think they're just really lucky, they might not even realize they're blessed by Tymora. But of course, when they find themselves to be lucky in a lot of different aspects of life, they get cocky, which means when the bad luck finally hits, in my opinion, karma, that is when they really start to take a dive. So I think lore-wise, I see this as a character who, yes, always, basically always use their uses their accumulation of good luck and gets way in over their head, starts drinking, doing all this sort of thing, having a great time, and then that luck runs out all of a sudden and they come tumbling back down, only to eventually use that good luck to climb their way back up again. Basically allowing for this roller coaster of a lifestyle where they're constantly up and down, which I think with a chaotic good deity like Tymora, that seems just like something quite fun and quite, you know, something that she would enjoy reveling in and watching this kind of up and down spiral. But that's just my personal interpretation. Obviously that could be different, but obviously we're still going to be trying to lean more into the good luck side of things, but I do quite enjoy the chance of bad luck kind of influencing the game as well, both mechanically and thematically. Next up is Fairy Fire. Basically create a cube of light, and everything within that light can be attacked with advantage, again manipulating that advantage. And then Bane. Up to 3 creatures receive a 1d4 penalty to attack rolls and saving throws. This is influencing bad luck on your opponents. I quite like this, as it works thematically. Your starting instrument can be whatever you want. I just go with a lute because I personally like the sound. And your stats are going to be a pretty standard stat spread for a bard, with a slight dip in the constitution to be able to put points into wisdom. We're going for a 16 dex, 14 con, 12 wisdom, and 16 charisma. And our you know, ability checks are going to be, you know, kind of the standard again for bard. I've gone with the charlatan background here for sleight of hand and deception, which means we get to point our 3 expertise into intimidation, performance, and persuasion to be super on theme and be great in dialogue. Now, this is where this video is going to get a little bit different than my other videos. I'm going to immediately show off the multi-classing options that I have. Now, with these multi-classing options I'm going to show you, I'm going to be showing you a fun way to kind of use all of these classes to be in one build. However, if you feel like you want to lean more into one specific class or none at all, feel free. And you don't have to take these levels in these classes now. You could take them way later and it's not going to be an issue, or you can take them straight away and get all of the kind of luck bending stuff out of the way, or like I said, take more levels in one class, or maybe even go entirely into that class. It's entirely up to you. What I'm going to show is like a few potential options that you can use and a way to pull them all into one build for a really fun and interesting playstyle. So let's get to it. Our first multi-class, and again these can be in any order, it depends on what you want to look for, we're going to be going with Cleric. Immediately this is going to get us a few interesting things. Number one, our dialogue cantrips, resistance, guidance, and thaumaturgy are all going to work really well. Again, thaumaturgy and friends overlap, but on tactician difficulty, friends has the chance to make enemies make people hostile after it wears off, whereas thaumaturgy does not. So definitely want to pick it up. Guidance is great. It's just giving you that little bit of extra luck on your ability checks. Totally worth bringing. And resistance is giving you that extra bit of luck on your saving throws, so you definitely want to pick it up. As for our subclass, now obviously a lot of people would think Trickery Domain is the most on-theme option, and I absolutely agree, but I want to propose something different. I wanted to go with Light Domain, which means we're going to get a few things. We're going to get the Light Cantrip, we're going to get the ability to cast Burning Hands and Fairy Fire, although we already have Fairy Fire. These ones use our Wisdom, which isn't as high, so I would stick with the Charisma version. But we're going to get our subclass feature, Warding Flare. Shield yourself with Divine Light. Use your reaction to impose disadvantage on an attacker, possibly causing their attack to miss. Essentially, this is another way to manipulate luck in our favour. For a 1-level dip into Cleric that we're going to want anyway, so we can choose Tymora as our deity for the dialogue options that it brings about, there is no reason not to just take this 1-level dip into Cleric, get this on-theme ability, and be able to get the dialogue options as well. We're also going to get 2 spells, and you have a few options here. I quite like Sanctuary, but imagine a character who is such a goofball. They are so lucky that they can kind of bumble about the arena without anything actually hitting them. Sanctuary can kind of let you roleplay this out a little bit. For a bonus action, you cannot be harmed as long as you do no harm, and I feel like Sanctuary is quite an interesting spell on this build, and it's going to allow you to play a much more powerful support role overall, since this character is going to be more support orientated with the amount of luck bending abilities they're going to have that affect the whole party as well as themselves. So Sanctuary is definitely a good spell here. I also quite like Bless. For your concentration, it does the opposite of Bane. You will be able to give yourself and your companions an extra 1d4 bonus to attack rolls and saving throws, with the cost of your concentration, it's another great support spell that is going to give that slight luck boost to the whole party. So overall, this 1-level dip into Cleric definitely fits on theme. Yes, again, technically the domain isn't what Tymora's domain is. Her domain is Trickery, but I feel like the Light domain's ability is so on theme here, and Trickery domain is just kind of bad, in my opinion, that I feel like it's worth grabbing this 1-level feature. Since we're only taking 1 level in Cleric, this is the best way to go. If you wanted to go 2 levels in Cleric, then you could get the Invoke Duplicity class action, which could definitely have some advantages and allow you to take advantage on attack rolls next to this clone of yourself that you make. However, I feel like for the 1-level dip, Light domain is the way to go. That is my justification. Now, next up, we are going to be multi-classing once again immediately, and we're going to be taking 1 level in Sorcerer. Now, why Sorcerer? Well, obviously we're going with the Wild Magic subclass. This is going to give us access to 2 unique features. 1, the Tides of Chaos. Activate to gain advantage on your next attack roll, ability check, or saving throw. Another way to manipulate luck. But it comes with an increased chance of a Wild Magic Surge afterwards. I believe data mining shows in this game that normally a Wild Magic Surge has a 5% chance to occur. After using Tides of Chaos, which you can use once per short or long rest, that chance becomes 50, so you're going to be getting to see a lot of Wild Magic Surges with this build. But here's the thing, we're only taking 1 level of Sorcerer, so why does this matter? It's not like we're going to be able to trigger Wild Magic Surges a lot. Well, here's the thing. Taking 1 level in Wild Magic Sorcerer makes all of your leveled spells have a chance to trigger a Wild Magic Surge. This means you can take 1 level of this class and be able to gain Wild Magic on any class. You could be a Sorcerer 1, Bard 11, and get Wild Magic Surges on all of your leveled spells, which is super fun. It's a cool little way to make Wild Magic spellcasters of other classes. Definitely worth checking out. And of course, the Wild Magic Surges can either have extremely positive effects, really negative effects, or something kind of in the middle that could even be completely harmless. It's super, super fun, and it really brings in that cool sort of, maybe even like trickster god intervention, this chaotic good intervention coming into combat and benefiting or even maybe hindering slightly you and your party. It really is just random, but it's a ton of fun. Some people may feel like this isn't on theme for Tymora because obviously she is a deity of good luck, where is her sister who is bad luck, but unfortunately the sister, the bad luck goddess, isn't available as a patron in this game, and as such, even though I may actually do a dedicated build on that in the future if I so choose, I kind of wanted to cover the kind of good and bad aspects of luck in this video in case I don't, and I feel like Wild Magic is fun enough and thematic enough to count as both in this case, but still leaning more towards the good side of things thanks to Tides of Chaos. But that's just my opinion. If you don't feel like Wild Magic Sorcerer works, do not take it. But some of you were suggesting like Wild Magic Barbarian, so I feel like this isn't such an alien concept. As for your cantrips, you can take whatever you like here. Since this is still going to be using our Charisma casting, we're free to take a bunch of power spells, including we can grab Fire Bolt, which is just a good ranged option to have. But I would recommend also grabbing Mage Hand, Minor Illusion, and possibly Blade Ward to be able to give yourself a little bit more utility. As for your leveled spells, you are absolutely going to want to take Magic Missile here. This is actually going to be one of your best ways to deal magic damage with this build, as Magic Missile upscales really, really well, even up to a 6th level slot, and is always going to be able to hit, meaning that you always stay true, so that's a little bit on theme here. But honestly, it's going to be a good option. We are going to have a mainly ranged damage build anyway. If you can't really see it through the guitar, but we do have dual crossbows here. So you may want to pick up something else, but I really think Magic Missile is a solid option anyway, and is going to work really well with this build. The second thing I would actually recommend here is Ice Knife, which is a weird recommendation, but I think it's actually quite good here. It's another way of dealing damage, but it's also going to be able to do a different type of damage, being piercing and cold, which is nice, and it leaves an ice surface that people can trip on, kind of going into that, like, fun, like, kind of messing with your enemies' like, karmic luck, and causing them to trip over more often. It's just fun. It's not really, like, a major thing. You can take really whatever you like here, but I will warn you that we are going to be taking another spellcasting class, which is going to allow us to get the utility spells, so don't feel like you need to take these here. Definitely take your more offensive spells that are going to rely on your primary spellcasting modifier here. But yeah, let's move on. Well, you know, you could just go 6 levels of Bard, 6 levels of Wild Magic Sorcerer, and just be a super powerful spellcaster anyway, but that's up to you. Now we're going to be going into our final multi-class of the build. This is probably the most I've ever multi-classed in a single build, but trust me, it's worth it. Some of the more astute among you and the ones who commented on my previous video about what I should do probably know where I'm going with this, but we are going Wizard. This is going to be getting us 3 cantrips. Again, take some utility options here or whatever you fancy. You can grab whatever. I'll grab Ray of Frost, Shocking Grass just to have a bit of a melee option. And we can grab Dancing Lights just because I kind of like it thematically, but it's not really that useful. And of course, we're going to be getting a bunch of spells here. And obviously, I'm going to recommend, similar to my last build, to take all of the good utility options, including Shield this time around, since we might as well grab it here. And, of course, blah, 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 take whatever else you like, really, as your final one. I kind of like Expeditious Retreat here, because imagine somebody who is winning so much gambling that they're basically about to get set on by a bunch of thugs in a shady tavern, so they speed off all cartoon style, like, and then they run away. Oh, that was the dumbest thing I've ever done. But anyways, we only get to prepare 1 spell, but spoiler alert, similar to my last build, we're going to be getting an item that's going to mitigate this. But I would take Shield for now, as it is one of the best ways to manipulate luck, basically making it so you're way more likely to not get hit by an attack or spell. Fits perfectly, and it's one of the most important utility spells in this game. It's one of the most powerful, easily. Next up, at level 2, we're going to be taking our subclass, and you already guessed what it's going to be. We are taking the Divination subclass. This is going to get us Portent. After each long rest, you get 2 random Portent die. During the day, you can use your reaction to change the die of any attack roll or saving throw rolled near you to one of your Portent die. And this can be on either end of the spectrum, but it's a really, really good way to manipulate luck around you, and I feel like this would not be a complete luck build if I didn't grab this as well. In my testing, I actually managed to get a Portent die of 1 and a Portent die of 20. You'll see it in the combat footage at the end of this video, and I thought it was really, really interesting that I could make 1 attack a critical hit and 1 attack a critical failure. Really, really fun subclass. We're only going to be taking this to level 2 here, unless you wish to take it higher, so we're only going to get 2 Portent die, but with all the other luck manipulating strats we're going to have, this definitely fits in, so absolutely want to pick this up. You can also get 2 more spells at this level. Basically pick whatever you like. I'm going to grab Grease and Find Familiar, just because I like having those options, and we'll keep the 1 spell prepared, but like I say, you'll be able to have up to 5 prepared. And that is it for the multi-classing. We're going to go back into our main class now. Like I say, feel free to take out or put more levels into any of the classes I'm shown here, depending on your preference. However, I wanted to show what I would believe to be a solid build that includes all of these options, so you have a good amount of luck bending abilities. Pretty much all of the luck bending abilities in the game, if I'm not mistaken. That isn't item based, but do correct me on that if I'm wrong. So let's get back into our main class here, which is going to be Bard, which is going to be our way of getting our primary abilities, primary features, and also our final party-wide luck bending strategy. So at level 2 of Bard, we're going to be getting Jack of all trades, meaning we're a little bit better in everything, which is on theme for this build. Song of Rest for a third short rest, always good. And we also get another utility spell at this point. You can take Speak with Animals if you want the extra dialogue options. I personally would, but Charm Person, any of these work. Obviously, like I say, we have all of these already, so we don't really need to focus on them. So maybe Speak with Animals is a fun one here to get those extra dialogue options. Next up at Bard level 3, we're going to be getting our subclass, and again, we could have got this at normal level 3, it depends on how you want to build this. And we're going to be going with a subclass that I've never used before and might not ever use again, and that's College of Valour. Now, when I say I'll never use this again, don't get me wrong, this is a great subclass, but if I'm going for a melee subclass on a Bard, I'm always going to go College of Swords. But College of Valour has some unique things about it here that we're going to be able to get that we can't really get anywhere else. We're going to be getting Combat Inspiration, which is a buff to our regular Bardic Inspiration, which is already a party-wide luck buff, which is going to allow Bardic Inspiration to also now be used in various other ways. I'm going to have an infographic from the wiki on the screen now to show what Combat Inspiration is capable of, and as you can see, it does a lot more than just regular Inspiration. Feel free to pause and read. It is super, super interesting, and it's going to allow you to bend luck for your whole party in so many different ways. And it's also going to make us a martial fighter, giving us medium armor and shield proficiency, and the ability to use any martial weapon, whereas College of Swords only gives us medium armor and scimitar proficiency, so it definitely does have its strengths over sword, and it should be considered more often. I myself am guilty of going straight to swords for the blade flourishes, but this is still a solid option if you want sort of more of a full martial caster. Next up, we are going to be able to get a level 2 spell at this level, and for more luck enhancing ability, well, we can grab Enhance Ability. Bestow a magical enchantment upon an ally. They gain advantage on ability checks with the chosen ability. This is super powerful, and it also comes with a bunch of different extra effects. I will also put an infographic on the screen for this spell here as well, because there is a lot of cool things you can do with this, which is again going to feel like you're bending luck even more. At Bard level 4, we're going to be getting our first feat, and again, like I say, even if it feels like we're getting it late in this video, but again, you could just take however many levels of Bard you want first. It really doesn't matter. You need to play with the multiclassing on this. There's only one cantrip left to get that we don't already have, and it's True Strike. The weird thing about multiclassing into full casters like this is you just get every cantrip. It's kind of fun. Gain advantage, well, not every cantrip, there's still Eldritch Blast, but you get the point. Gain advantage on your next attack roll. For concentration and the cost of an action, it's bad, never use it, just attack twice. We also get another level 2 spell at this level, and I actually want to grab Heat Metal. Now, Heat Metal, basically it makes it so your opponents take disadvantage on attack rolls and ability checks, as long as they are holding or wearing a metal weapon or armor. And basically, you can cause them to drop a weapon, if you heat up their weapon, which could be like your enemy going to attack you and then suddenly their weapon slips out of their hands in kind of a funny luck-bending way. I'm kind of picturing this guy as like a Looney Tunes character, but it's kind of fun. Or you just get to impose disadvantage on their attack rolls and ability checks, basically influencing their luck even more. It costs your concentration and the enemy does make a con save, but I still think it's really fun, and I actually really like it for this build. And of course, for our feat, we're gonna be taking Lucky. How could we not? This is the feat for this build. You're going to get 3 luck points, which you can use to gain advantage on attack rolls, ability checks, or saving throws, or to make your enemy re-roll their attack rolls. Basically, for 3 times per day? Yes, 3 times per long rest, you get these special points, which let you manipulate luck to the max. With this, we have got so many luck bending abilities. I will be surprised if your enemy ever hits you or if you ever miss. Maybe that's a bit of hyperbole. Even in my testing, that did kind of happen a few times. But you'd be surprised how much you're going to be able to influence the battlefield and buff up your party as this kind of combination. This is definitely a support class or class combination more than anything. It is one of the better support builds I've made by far. Next up at Bard level 5, we're going to be getting some awesome Bard features. I would say we're going to be getting Font of Inspiration, which allows our Bardic Inspiration to now recover on a short rest instead of just a long rest. Our Bardic Inspiration, including our Combat Inspiration, now gets bumped up to a D8 overall. And of course, we're going to be able to grab another spell at this level. I quite like Feign Death. Specifically because, again, being on theme, imagine this guy is running into combat and he's about to get cleaved over by a sword that he doesn't even see coming. And then he trips over and falls to the ground and becomes resistant to all damage, and disease and poison have no effect. And a friend does have to help you up, or after 10 turns you get up. But it's just so funny, and it's on theme. I just love that idea that I wanted to pick this up here. So this is my personal choice, but obviously there's other options here you can go with. At Bard level 6, we're going to be getting a few things. Mainly, we're going to be grabbing extra attack, which means now our martial capabilities are going to be a bit better. Also, we grab Counter Charm here. It is going to let us manipulate luck a little bit more, but it's not great, honestly, in this game. Only 3 turns kind of sucks, especially when it costs an action. So, I would say this is kind of a meta ability, but it's still definitely on theme. And, of course, we're going to get another spell at this level, and I would actually like to recommend Glyph of Warding. Being able to set up a trap that cartoonishly explodes when your enemies step on it is still super fun. Again, this is just I've made a comedy character here. I've made a gag character. That's kind of what I'm picturing this as. But Glyph of Warding is a really fun spell, and I highly encourage you to experiment with it if you have not already. Next up at Bard level 7, we're going to be getting some level 4 spells, and you can kind of take whatever you want here, it's really up to you. Greater Invisibility is a really, really fun spell that I think is really, really powerful and could be cool for this build. Polymorph. I never suggest Polymorph, but I like to imagine with this kind of chaotic magic theming we're going for, having your enemy be able to just transform into a sheep is really fun, and I actually do plan to do a dedicated build on Polymorph in the future, because there's a lot of stuff you can do with it. But honestly, take whatever you like here, it really doesn't matter. I probably am going to grab Greater Invisibility just because I really, really like this spell, and I think it's a decent option here. And finally, at level 12, we are a Bard level 8. This is where we're going to be able to get another feat, and yes, at level 12 this kind of sucks, but again, play with these levels however you want, and make your build your way. I'm personally going to be taking an ability score improvement, because I really do not want our main spellcasting ability to be 16 at max level, so having it at 18 is a bit more acceptable. We're also going to get another spell at this point. Again, it's a take whatever you like kind of situation. I'll grab Polymorph just because I mentioned it, but really take whatever you want. It's your build. Speaking of, that is the build. Now, with this, you gain a ton of options to manipulate luck all across the board. We have our Wild Magic Tides of Chaos reaction here. We have our luck points that we get from the lucky feat. We have a ton of different reactions that we can do in the form of shield. We have Portent Die, in which case my 2 Portent Die that I've rolled for today are a 14 and an 18. Pretty good, actually, overall. We have Warding Flare to impose disadvantage for free. There's literally nothing... there's literally no cost to this at all, so you can just do this for free at the cost of your reaction. Legendary Protection, I'll get to that in a minute. So yeah, we have a ton of stuff. Advantage and disadvantage are manipulated in a bunch of different ways. Our Bardic Inspiration is going to allow us to do a ton of cool things for our party. And things like Guidance and such are even going to boost up us or our whole party even more. You are manipulating luck in pretty much every possible way I can think of off the bat. So what else is up with this build? Well, let's get into the equipment, because we can even manipulate our luck even further here. Let's get into the main things here. Our Warped Headband of Intellect. Now, obviously, this is something you can obtain in Act 1, raises your intelligence score to 17, enabling our wizard spell slots to be a bit higher, allowing us to equip all of our utility spells that we wanted to grab. This is obviously just mainly because we've taken wizard levels, and since we take 2 levels of wizard, we might as well have some utility out of the spells we get from it. But you could replace this if you only care about having 1 spell, which could be shield in this case, and you only really care about the Portent Die, so feel free to switch this up if you like. The Birthright Hat that gives you +2 Charisma, could be a good option here if you want to bump up your Charisma even further with the limited ability score improvements that we have. Now, the other part of this build that I wanted to kind of focus on was AC. Obviously, the higher AC you have, the more likely you are to dodge attacks, so it fits on theme, and I wanted to grab as much as we can while still wearing decently fashionable lighter armor, or even medium armor that I'll get to in a minute. But of course, for the fashion, I went with something a bit more bardish, but obviously this is not a great armor set, so we can replace it in a minute. But let's get into the finer details. The Cloak of Protection, a +1 to armor class and saving throws. This is just a lesser chance to get hit, so it's on theme, and it's just very useful. It can be obtained easily in Act 2. The Blazer of Benevolence can be obtained very easily in Act 1. It's really stylish, so I just kind of wanted to show it off. And whenever you inspire an ally using Bardic Inspiration, which you'll be doing a lot, you gain 4 temporary hit points. Obviously, this is not a great armor set, but I did want to show it off because it is on theme and I quite like it. And it does have some utility, but the armor class isn't the best. With all of our combined stuff here, even with this armor, we're still getting a decent armor class. But for another really good armor set you can get in Act 1, this is the Hide Armor +2. Obviously not nearly as fashionable, but is a +2 medium armor, which we can use because of our subclass, that gives you a little bit of a bonus to dex saves and to initiative rolls, and is obviously a bit stronger overall, but feel free to use whatever you can find in the later Acts 2 and 3 to get the job done. Next up, the Wondrous Gloves. Your armor class increases by 1. Perfect. In addition, if you have Bardic Inspiration, you gain 1 more use of it. Also perfect. An extra use of Bardic Inspiration is very, very welcome. So, absolutely no complaints here. This is one of the best pieces of armor for Bard. And next we have the Boots of Brilliance. Once per long rest you can cast Restore Bardic Inspiration, which means you play your instrument to restore one of your Bardic Inspiration slots. Essentially we now have 7 Bardic Inspiration. Pretty darn good. Next up, these accessories aren't essential to the build, but definitely enhance it in one way or another, but most of them can be obtained only in the later game, but I wanted to show them off anyway. First off, the Unflinching Protector Amulet. You can get this from completing I think from completing a questline in Act 3, or either defeating an enemy in Act 3. One of the two. Wiki pages in the description is usual for when I don't know myself. This gives you unflinching protection. When a nearby ally is targeted by an attack of any kind, you can use your reaction to make that attack automatically miss, once per short rest. Obviously, extremely on theme for this build, and is a really unique piece of kit that I haven't had a chance to show off yet, but I really wanted to show it here because it is so cool. It's almost like, it's basically just an instant, like, once per short rest, completely turn luck in your favour, completely in your control. Super, super fun. Next up is the Ring of Feywild Sparks. While your Sorcerer's Tides of Chaos feature is active, you will always trigger a Wild Magic Surge when casting spells. This is just a fun ring option. You get this in Act 3 for beating a certain boss, and I just wanted to show it off here because since we're using Tides of Chaos, this is just a fun little way to always be able to play that extra bit of luck and see what comes out of it. Obviously not necessary to the build, replace this with whatever you like, but I wanted to show it off because it is quite fun. And finally, the Ring of Mental Inhibition. When a foe fails a saving throw against one of your spells or actions, which will happen a lot because a lot of Bard spells are saving throw based, they gain Mental Fatigue for 2 turns, and what Mental Fatigue does is they have a -1 penalty to Wisdom, Intelligence, and Charisma saving throws for every turn remaining, basically meaning that they're going to fail subsequent saving throws a lot more often. This is just a nice ring to have that I felt like showing off, not necessary to the build, swap it out as you like. Now, our main way of attacking with this build as a martial is going to be using the dual crossbow kind of standard, that being the Hellfire hand crossbow and the Near Misser, basically just the basic +2 and +1 crossbow combo, and these are the best hand crossbows you can get in the game as far as I understand it. There are some other crossbows that are like +2, but unfortunately they are unobtainable in the base game. So this is our best options. These can both be obtained in Act 2 really easily, and are super good options. And since we're mainly focusing on our ranged martial abilities, our melee stuff can be whatever we like. So I've decided to show off the Sword of Lifestealing here. On a critical hit, which we'd get a lot with this build, the target takes an extra 10 necrotic damage as long as it isn't a construct or undead, and you also gain 10 temporary hit points. It's a +2 weapon. You get this really easily from a vendor in Act 2, but obviously I would probably use the Knife of the Undermountain King over this because it's easier to get, and it's overall better in my opinion. But since I used that on my last build and in a few builds before this, I wanted to show off a different option for those who want something a little bit different. But since the melee weapon we're using in this build is purely inconsequential, I just wanted to kind of use this as a way to show off something else. It's light, it's finesse, so it works with our decks. But we're really here to be able to use a shield. Really, you can do any shield you want. We're just here for the buff to AC, so find any shield that works for you. This is just a simple shield that is easier to get in Act 1, and it just gives you a +1 buff to your saving throws. But really, take whatever shield you like. The Shield of Devotion in Act 2 is really good. There's even a shield that you can get in Act 2 that gives you like fire resistance and the ability to like hide behind the shield, which might be thematic for a halfling. But I mainly just wanted to say, I didn't want to show off any specific shield, because I mainly just wanted to say any shield in the offhand will work for bumping up our AC. So yeah, this is the overall equipment, and that is the build. I am actually really proud of this one. Definitely doing the extra research was worth it, kind of getting into, learning that, the Tymora is a chaotic good entity, which obviously is fun to play around with when you just get more into the chaotic aspect, which I've done here. And on her Forgotten Realms wiki page, it mentions a unique mechanical interaction that she had with wild magic sorcerers, or wizards as they were back then. So this was actually a really, really fun build to make, kind of leaning into that chaotic, fun, goofy aspect of Dungeons and Dragons. Being able to kind of make almost like a comedy character was really, really fun. I actually have a few ideas for builds in the build videos in the future that are around this more kind of comedic style of D&D building, including a build that I'm currently using in a playthrough with my friend Private Noodles, who has been on the channel before, in my Phasmophobia videos, which is probably the most fun build I've ever used in this game, and may even be the most fun I've had in a game ever. So I will definitely be making a build video on that build when it is complete. Now, as per what I said I was going to do in my last video, I do want to reveal the next build video I'm going to be working on, and I'm going to pull up my notes here for this. So, let's have a look. I've got a few requests here that I'm kind of working through, but my next build video is going to be what I'm calling Unending Wrath. The video title may change, but that is kind of the hint I'm going to be giving for now. This is not a deity build, I will say. This is a build that I've already figured out, and it's more about showing off a unique combination of in-game items and class abilities that I've found to create a really interesting result. Again, I don't really want to spoil what this is, but it is going to be a mainly martial-focused build, and I think you guys are really, really going to enjoy it. However, in the meantime, I am going to be also revealing the next deity I plan on working with. If you will just give me a minute to pull up the wiki page, this is so unprofessional, oh my god, but I don't think any of my videos are very, professional. I think we've learned that at this point. The next build I'm going to be working on, and I believe this was a request as well, is going to be Tempest, the God of War. He is a neutral deity, I'm just reading the Baldur's Gate 3 wiki here, and his associated domain is war. Tempest is the Lord of Battles, overseeing war and its soldiers. He is the embodiment of honourable combat and condemns needless bloodlust. This deity can be selected by a player cleric. Basically, even though I've kind of got these two builds lined up, my first being this Wrath build and the next being my deity build, they might overlap a little bit, but one is more about showing a combo, whereas more is more about showing a thematic build. So then they're going to be a bit similar, but they're not going to be exactly the same. But anyways, I believe that is going to do it for me. I really, really hope you guys enjoyed. I really want to hear your thoughts on Tempest for my next deity build, which will come out after my next video, as I've said. And yeah, I think that's everything I've got to say. I don't think there's anything else left. So yeah, I really, really hope you all enjoyed, and I will see you all next time. Peace out.